we have officially harvested more tomatoes than we can possibly eat. So I've been spending the week trying to preserve them as much as I can. We've been eating a lot of them fresh, but we harvested a lot more this week and they seem to be ripening a lot faster this time. So I am going to try to do something that I've never done before today, and I'm going to use my electric juicer to juice some tomatoes and try to can some tomato juice. I just watched a video yesterday from someone making it and it looked pretty easy. I've been doing crushed tomatoes and tomato sauce and that's a lot of work. So let's see if actually doing this other method would be a bit more efficient. These are all the tomatoes that I have. I'm gonna use some of these guys too. They're also ready to go. And I also have my dehydrator handy back there because whatever I can't use from here, I might just go ahead and throw some in the dehydrator so I can start preserving more of them too. I have here the first batch of the cherry tomatoes that I did on the video last time, so that's how it looks like after it's nice and dry. And these are the tomato skins that once I did salsa and tomato sauce, I had to peel off the skin and I decided to dehydrate it and turn it into a powder. And this is actually pretty cool. It turned out better than I thought. It smells kind of like pizza seasoning. I'm definitely going to be doing some experiments with this. Uses the toppings for a few things because it smells really, really good. To prepare the tomatoes, I'm just going to quarter them, to cut them small enough so they can fit in this hole here. And if there's any blemishes or anything that doesn't look very good, I'm gonna take that out as well. I'm going to start with actually my darker tomatoes. I guess the ones that are considered purple. I have 3 varieties in here. This is the Purple Heart from Hudson Valley Seed Company. I have the black strawberry tomatoes and I'm going to throw that in there for sweetness. And I have also some of these black beauties. Actually, I forgot to tell you guys, but this is also the first time that I'm using this juicer. I better lock this. There we go. Now, put this in here. Alright, that's really strong. Here's what we got. It is from the purple tomatoes, so it's expected to be like this. I wonder how it's going to look like after it's cooked, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the stove to boil for a few minutes. Okay, the tomatoes are now boiling over medium heat, and I put a 10-minute timer. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do the red tomatoes now real quick, and we're gonna check how the first batch is doing. I'm just gonna go ahead and mix this all together. I think it'd just be easier to just boil them all together so they can also be ready at the same time when I'm canning. Okay, now I actually really wish that I had a food mill. I think it'd be more efficient than this. As you can see here, this is actually the second time that I passed the pulp. It looks like crushed tomatoes, like right here. Oops, I'm gonna close this. So maybe there's no easy way to do this. Everything is a lot of work. But it's alright. I'm gonna pass this to a strainer one more time with a spatula. This time I think it'll be easier. And then I'm gonna go ahead and throw this to the pot with the boiling tomatoes. It's the next day now. And I had a little problem with my camera last night and couldn't finish filming the rest of the video during the canning process. But this is what I got. Only 2 jars of tomato juice from other tomatoes that I processed yesterday. Now, I personally did not think that using a juicer to do this, it's worth it. It was a lot of time. It took me a lot of time. It was very messy. The pulp that you get in there is still very wet, has still a lot of liquid in it. I just don't think it's the right tool for the job. I did watch a video about it. The person in the video said that you can use any juicer to do that, so I tested it with mine. It didn't work for me, and I don't think I'm going to be doing that again. I have some tomatoes that are getting a bit soft. You know, they're passing into most springtime, and I put a lot of effort in growing these tomatoes. I do not want to waste them. I'm going to roast them. This is okay if they see how there's some spots in here. They're starting to get a little soft, but not bad yet. So roasting it will just be fine. I'm gonna roast a bunch. I'm gonna make some tomato soup for dinner tonight, and also the rest of it I'll let it roast for a little longer. Then I'm gonna put it in a jar and top it with olive oil and preserve it in my fridge that way. That's not gonna last all the way into the winter, but for us they'll probably last a couple weeks in our fridge. I do enjoy using roasted tomatoes on top of fresh tomatoes to mix things up while we're eating through the week, so that's the plan for now. And the dehydrator is still here, so I might even start dehydrating some more tomatoes too. So let's start first with roasting. I already tried to get the stuff that I need around here. I'm gonna select the tomatoes that I'm going to use first. I have this sheet pan that I put a silicone mat in this. I feel really bad about always using parchment paper or foil. You know, I wanted to just get something that I can wash and reuse, so I got this silicone mat. It's not a Silpa, it's a different brand. I just got it from Amazon, so I will test it first and see if it's good before I link it to you guys below. And I have a little rack. I want the tomatoes to get quite dry, so I like to roast it over a rack sometimes. One interesting thing that I actually wanted to point out is that last video when I dehydrated the tomatoes, I said it didn't really matter if you put them facing up or down, but I was looking through some of my notes from back when I used to work in restaurants for a few recipes, and I had a little note there that said always roast tomatoes facing up so it can collect the juices and concentrate it. So I was like, huh, that's why I kind of also have kind of the tendency of always put them facing up. So just let you guys know about that too. We always roast it with the skins down. I'm going to be doing that today too, and that's the reason why. Alright, so for these tomatoes here, this is what I have left, but we did have a few friends coming over for dinner last night too, and I made some salads and some tomato sauce for pasta, and I also sent them away with a bunch of tomatoes, so we still have quite a lot, but not as much as we had yesterday. So I'm just gonna go ahead and select the ones that are kind of getting a bit soft, and those are the ones that I'm going to roast first. I'm gonna get a variety of colors in there. I'm trying to save the red ones for sauce, but if they are already kind of getting like this, little wrinkly and soft, I'm gonna go ahead and roast it. And I'll probably just keep doing this through the week because the tomatoes are now ripening quite fast. The other ones are still okay. Just gonna go ahead and cut the tomatoes in half. Try if there's any spots like this from especially the heirlooms where tomatoes kind of form together, I'm gonna remove that too. And I'm taking the cores out as well. I'm gonna quarter this. I always find it easier to roast it like this, quartered. I have this bowl here where it's gonna go to my compost. And when the tomatoes are cut, I'm just going to transfer them from to my roasting rack, and they will just look like this. I like to place them skin down with the top up. So I'm just going to finish this process with all of the tomatoes. So here are all the tomatoes. That's how it looks like after I have cut them all and laid them all in the sheet pan with the rack. It's now time to just add some olive oil, salt and pepper, and we're gonna roast all of this. And there's actually no real recipe for this. You can just use however tomatoes you have. Just drench some olive oil, kind of as much as you like. Then you just throw some salt in there and pepper, kind of to the eye, not as much, and that's it. You have two options here. If you wanted to make like tomato soup or just use this for dinner real quick, you could roast this fast at like 400 for like 30 to 45 minutes. But if you want to really try to concentrate the flavors to preserve them in olive oil, I like to roast at a lower temperature for a longer time. So I'm going to start this at 325 for maybe an hour or two. I'll check how they're doing, and then after that I'll lower to probably 300 and leave it up another 30 minutes or an hour there, just so it has reduced a lot in volume and has lost a lot of the water while developing that lovely roasted, slow roasted tomato flavor. And also they'll really depend on the kind of tomatoes you're using. So I'm just going to start the process now, and after this roasted I'm going to show you how it looks like, so you know what you're looking for if you have never done this before. My kitchen is actually all the way back there. I use my living room to prep since my kitchen is so tiny. I don't really have a lot of counter space in there, so I'm gonna run to put this in the oven, and I'll be right back to put some tomatoes in the dehydrator too. I also should have probably said this at the beginning, but every time that I'm planning to do some prepping or roasting something in the oven, I always turn the oven on first before I start doing anything else. So by the time I'm done with cutting and everything, the oven is already preheated and ready to go. And I'm going to do at least one tray of the dehydrated tomatoes. I have to harvest some herbs today after this that I have to dehydrate as well. So I'm going to get started with the tomatoes in here with one tray, but I'm leaving the other trays handy because I'm going to add some herbs in there. I've been putting the tomatoes here in this little fold-out table to take some pictures of them. So I'm going to go ahead and try to take all of the cherry tomatoes. I'm actually going to use a bigger set of leads this time to cut them. I've been using the little small round ones in the past videos. I'm going to use this bigger one today so I can cut more at once. And if you haven't watched my previous cooking video, I like to put the tomatoes in between those lids, and then I am going to cut them in half all at once, so I don't have to go cutting one by one, because that can be very time consuming. So after I do one even layer, I already got almost half of the tomatoes I had here, I will get another set of the same lid. I kind of close it so I have a place to hold. Then I like to use a bread knife, and I'm just gonna go cut straight through it. It's important that you don't press it in too much, especially if it's super ripe like this, because they can get kind of mushy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw them all here on this dehydrator pan. I'm gonna try my best now to put them all up, so when they do dehydrate, they get more concentrated flavors into it. I mean, it's important for the roasted tomatoes, as I say that, but I have, when I was short in time, I have just dehydrated the cherry tomatoes not as nicely, you know, and kind of like the way that it fell in here, and it was fine. If you gotta do what you gotta do, if you have a little extra time, you can try to flip them all up. Today I'm kind of leaving them half of the way. I'm gonna cut some more, just to be enough to fill this tray. Maybe I'll actually cut some of these big ones this time, and I will just do it by hand instead of using the tray, because they're a little bit too big. I'm gonna actually quarter this, so they will be about the same size as those, and they will dehydrate fairly about the same time too. And I'm just going to go ahead and complete this tray here. We're all busy with work, so trying to do these projects in the time that you get home or in between tasks, so it's good to get done as much as we can. This is the batch that's going in today. I'm going to take out these other trays for now, leave them handy, because I am going to do the herbs in a minute. But I just put this one as the first layer here. Hey everyone, unfortunately my camera actually stopped working, and I was not able to film the ending of what I was doing, so I decided to grab my phone. So sorry if the quality is not going to be so great, to just show you the end products of what I've started and a few other things that I was actually able to do during this week too. Let's start here on this side. This is how my tomato harvest table actually looks so far. Very different than it was a couple days ago when I filmed this. I also harvested all of this morning that I still got washed. And over here is mostly what I've been working on. The herbs I said I was going to dehydrate are here. They're all ready to go and to be jarred. My dehydrator is actually running a batch of tomato skins, because I decided to do some more diced tomatoes for this week too, to preserve them. And I already have 3 little jars of the dehydrated cherry tomatoes. Oops, this is calendula. The other one is here. I think I put it out here because I want to show you guys all at once, but 3 jars of the dehydrated cherry tomatoes. This is the roasted tomatoes in olive oil. This was in the fridge, the one that I was about to show you guys how it looked like. So it roasted for quite a while. I ended up leaving there for about 3 hours, and we ate some of it already. So it's not topped with olive oil all the way to the top. I would do that if you're going to store for longer, but I'm using this again for dinner tonight, so I'm not worrying about it. But this is how it looks like. It looks pretty good and tasted really, really good too. And I also dehydrated a couple peppers, whole peppers, that I have already jarred, and I'm deciding if I should grind it or not. And again, this is the same tomato that it starts like this, the tomato skins, and then I put into a little blender, and then it gets like this. So I'm just gonna top off the jar with the rest of the tomato skins. That's mostly it. I also picked out a couple peppers. I have all of this preserved, so a lot of the stuff that were here, now it's there, and I got some more to take care of. And hopefully my camera, I'll be able to fix my camera this week, and I will be posting some more content soon. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you next time.